Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Let's do this, guys.
So,
Yeah.
I was right. I told you again.
Yeah.
We should just start, every week we should just start off with, so, I was right.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, that's the thing, is you're scratching your head going like, what was Alex right about again this time?
Oh, I know what you're right about.
What did Alex tell everybody this time?
You were right that you were wrong, so yeah.
Exactly. I was right that I was wrong. And it's, I gotta tell you.
And we're talking about,
the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl. So I looked at it and I'm like, there's no way I could have really been wrong this many times in a row. And I told everybody, the way I look at it is I look at the two teams and I'm not an idiot about football. I understand football.
Right.
I'm very knowledgeable about football. We got guys who played in the league, and so we understand like how things develop, the way things think, the way people think, the difference between a Mike and a Will, right?
Right.
Everything.
Right.
Okay. So anyway, I have guessed this one game. You got a 50-50 shot as to who's going to win the game. All right. You don't know anything about football. You could pick, hey, the team with the white jerseys, the team with the red jerseys. Who do you think's going to win? You got a 50-50 shot. So I've had a 50-50 shot every single year for 21 straight years. I've got it wrong.
That's insane.
It is.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I think the last time I got it right was the 2000 Ravens? No, I got that one wrong. I wanted Eddie George. Well, I can't remember what it was. All right. But it was bad. It was bad, man. All right.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else happened?
Yeah, they played the Giants. That's right. I wanted them because they beat the Vikings 41
Correct.
donut. That's what it was. Anyway, so I 21 straight years I got that wrong.
Man.
So I looked that up. I think it's like 1 in 2 million that could have been the case.
All right.
It's freaking wild.
Man, you just don't know. You don't know how to pick winners, man. Come on, bro.
Or I do.
Oh, just the other way around.
You see what I mean? Okay. That's why did I not end the show last week telling everyone,
hey,
I'm picking the Niners. So literally go put money on the Chiefs. I told everybody to do that.
There you go.
So if you did that, you were a smart man. I didn't. I'm not trying to be a smart man. I'm just trying to be a man. Right?
Oh, man.
Well, that was good. Did you watch the game?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't even watch?
I didn't even watch. I was enjoying a good weekend. Finally, just having some time, just myself and my girlfriend, and not worrying about anything else. So that was good. I think I had a meeting or something, and then just hung out. So wasn't stressing about it. I don't like either team, so I'm a Raiders fan. So I'm not going to go for the 49ers or the Chiefs. So.
That's right. You're definitely stuck. You can't go over the Chiefs because they're in the division.
Right.
Can't go over the Niners because they're right across the bridge.
Right. So I'm just whatever. I'm just not into it right now. But overall, how was your week, Alex?
So I got to tell you, I actually was really excited about the game, but not about the game. All right. Yeah. It's about because people eat. It's always about all right, what kind of food are you going to get for the game? What kind of snacks are you going to get? So, people that know me close know that I love chips and salsa. I love different types of dips.
Right.
But I really love buffalo chicken dip.
It's the best.
Now listen. So I run fantasy football leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And the fantasy football draft is the best part of it. Where I'm going with this is one of my leagues, two of my leagues. We did this at the same time. Everybody brings something. This year was by far the best food spread there has ever been. Right? So I bring 5.5 pounds of buffalo chicken dip. Right? That's a lot of buffalo chicken dip.
Yeah.
But I love this stuff so much. I ate 2.5 pounds of it myself. That's a problem. The problem is, this sounds like an exaggeration. It sounds like, I ate 316 pounds. Like, no, I actually did eat 2.5 pounds of it.
God.
Now, you can measure that by looking, okay, there was this much that was there. You've now taken this much. Okay, you can just look at that. So the problem is I ate it so fast that the cheese then expands once it's in your stomach.
Oh, my God.
So if you've ever seen a kid who's drank for the first time and they're like, realize that you can get sick after you have alcohol, and they're like on the ground in the fetal position, or they're just on their knees and elbows on the ground. That was me from this buffalo chicken dip.
Yeah, bro.
And I'm dying, and I'm like literally looking up, like I don't know what to do. Like my
just
stomach
dying.
is literally going to explode. I can't move. That was bad, but I had it. This time my wife helped me eat it, so it wasn't going to be like that. And I paced myself. I was smarter this time.
Oh,
but
man,
yeah, it was awesome. Good. Oh,
yeah.
The buffalo chicken dip.
Yeah. And see,
I tell you what, it's so good.
It's awesome. But see, I don't eat chips anymore. So like, I just get a whole bowl of the dip and just eat it with a spoon.
You don't eat chips.
I don't eat chips. I don't eat like grain and wheat and all that stuff. So yeah,
I tell you,
it's not that great.
Some people with some diets are there's some.
It's not diet; it's just nutrition.
I know. I understand that. There's nothing wrong. You're actually right. But I tell you,
I'm not trying to lose weight or whatever. Like I'm just.
No, I tell you, my
sister-in-law eat healthier.
My sister-in-law does some things like this sometimes, where I'll just talk to her and I'm like, hey, so what do you got going on now? She goes, oh, I'm trying this new thing. It's where I only eat foods that either are green or have been green.
Right.
I'm trying this new thing where I wash my hair with kale juice.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? And every other week it's a new thing. So
yeah.
I get people trying a new thing. I just think it's a weird thing.
Well, I like chips. Yeah. No, I always did too, but I've been doing that for I guess 2-3 years now. So
you don't even miss it.
Yeah, it's not really like a thing. Yeah, I mean, or a new thing. So
that's cool.
As far as my week, I mean, been good overall. Got a lot of interesting messages from our show last week, and and I've gotten just a lot of phone calls about sport karate and
let's talk about it.
People just wanting me to get back in the promoter kind of thing, or
that's a good thing.
In some way or other capacity. So that's been interesting. So more to talk about later on. I mean, I guess as that goes, but I'm excited about helping and being a part of whatever I can in a positive way. So.
Tell me about what some of your conversations have been like. What is that like? What was that?
More of
was it about our pod last week, or what was it?
Oh, so some of the messages, yeah. So let's see. Yeah. I got one upset at you, so that was a good one.
Yeah, that's a big shocker.
Yeah, one upset at you, but they messaged me, so they didn't message you about that, and I told them to, and they kind of were, and they were like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, well, all right, whatever. One that was upset at me about a comment I said, and actually, I have a lot of respect for them because they messaged me about it. And so I'm just going to say, I just think that, if you have an issue with like an opinion or something that we said from our perspective, then just say, hey, this is actually how I do it. It's not that big of a deal. We're up here. We have a platform to talk. We're having fun doing it. Okay,
here's the thing. Whoever it was. This is the thing. They're likely going to disagree with many things I say.
Yes.
Because I have out there opinions sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be offended if you tell me, yo, you're an idiot. I don't agree with you. Fine.
Correct.
That's fine.
Correct.
Right. And I
do this every week.
I'm not.
I disagree with you every week. Like, and we go, sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. That's what we do.
You're right.
Sometimes you drive me nuts, but I love you, man. It's okay.
I feel the love.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, both of our podcasts talked, heavily about Pro Mac and the judges situation at AKA. You know, we've been reached by several of the people about that to either come on the show or do a show or judges. I think Rich Osborne mentioned a judges kind of round table or something. And you know what? We will eventually do something like that, maybe.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
And it's not a bad idea. We're not ready to just every week start bringing someone on just because they disagreed or wanted to say something about our topic. That's where the comments are.
The real reason is because that would take too long because everybody's going to disagree with us.
Correct. So I think we need to, you know, we can get there. There are some things, you know what, that, of course, like you and I were saying before, people are going, and I think I said this last week too, people are going to hate something when people are doing something big or something that is like a movement. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how many people are like, yes, certified judges, we've been wanting this and that. You're also going to have the same side, people saying, oh, yeah, but they're ruining this, or they don't do very good on this, or they don't, you know, but they're doing something. So I feel like you're going to have that no matter what. And I do remember saying that last week. So, you know, like, that's just how it's going to be sometimes. One of the things.
But let's say this though, the PROMAC, because there was a thing at AK because we talked about it, is people mentioned like it looked like there was like people doing PROMAC rules when they were supposed to be doing NASCA, and it looked and felt like sometimes like there was a PROMAC versus NASCA thing. But let's just put this out there. There was a lot of PROMAC people there.
Correct.
Judging and for NASCA,
for AKA, for John Sharkey, right?
And didn't Hunter. Have to.
Right. They showed
look
up.
At that.
So, yeah. So, some of the things, though, that were brought to our attention from those, I feel like that needs to be addressed in-house with NASCA, with the other conferences and regions, and they can take care of that, you know?
I don't know. Who is, like, the singular head? Is there a singular head of PROMAC? I don't know.
Yeah, Greg Ruth.
Greg Ruth. Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Greg Ruth
so that's someone we all know.
Yeah.
That's someone we all respect.
Mm-hmm.
That's someone that I trust, at least, you know. So I think that's at least because I didn't know that before you told me. I think I might have guessed it. I could have guessed it, but I mean, that's like if you look at that and say he's the head, you can look at that and go, okay, that's good. And that was a real reason why Larry Carnahan was voted the president of NASCA at the time when he did that, which I think was 1990, right?
Yeah, in 90 he became the president.
Yeah. I think it was the year 89 or 1990 when he became the president of NASCA.
It started like the end of 88 and 89 was really his first real year. So
yeah. So the Diamond Nationals has already become a thing, right? And they for over a decade, right? So they had already been established, and at the time, he was one of the better tournaments that was being run. And from what I remember now, I was not in martial arts yet at that time, so I can't say, oh, I know what it's like. I'm getting this knowledge from those that were there before and after and during, right?
Yeah.
And from what I was told is they were saying, well, he was just the constant. He was the one that we could depend on that was going to always do this thing this way. When we looked at his track record as to what he was doing a great job. We can say a lot of that same stuff for Greg Ruth, right?
Okay.
And that's in the Larry Carnahan's back pocket. That he has really, really always wanted to really be about martial arts competition. That is his main passion.
Right.
Is martial arts competition. Whereas a lot of people in martial arts, when they're martial arts professionals, it will be their success in their schools, their success in what they have. And while he does have that as well, obviously he's the founder of National Karate, right? He's the co-founder of National Karate. So he's got that, but his passion has always been martial arts competition and furthering it that way. Which you got to look at that and go, okay, you've done, and he has done a lot.
Yeah.
So, but it's not 1990. It's 2020.
Yeah.
So this PROMAC thing, who knows? We might look at this in, 10, 20 years and go, in 2020.
Right.
it was this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways to look at it. So, I mean, I'm excited. I feel like right now, especially from all the different things that I've heard and people I've talked to, there's a lot of things in the works of trying to make leagues better, trying to make things connect from international to national, to, intercontinental to national to regional, whatever. So I think a lot of cool things are going to be happening. So I'm excited.
I don't even know the differences of some of the rules in ProMac. Do you even know that much?
I don't.
Do you know
I don't. No, I don't.
You know what we'll do is we'll just because I think so. Jim Haymore's got his tournament this weekend.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll probably hear
move on to our big topic.
We'll hear some stuff after that. So next week we'll probably get a little bit of insight, like, oh, what were some of the differences like?
Right.
So
So there's that tournament. So a lot of cool stuff to look for this weekend, like big regional events. So there's that event. Murphy's is this weekend as well. Murphy's tournament, Starcade in Miami, and then also one of the biggest Mexican tournaments in Mexico City is this weekend. So
what is that one called?
It's called Reto Mex. I've been.
Okay, I've heard of this before.
2 or 3 tournaments. 2 or 3 times I have. I was going to go this year. I just waited too long to get a ticket. I really enjoyed the tournament. It's really cool because, especially right now, over the past 5 years, maybe 3 years, but, there's at least 15 fighters that compete in the United States and internationally from Mexico, So you see all of them competing against each other. And what's cool is that you get to see some of these people that actually beat those fighters but never leave, like, that city right there. It's really cool. It's exciting. Like, there's certain people that every year I go to that tournament and they have won NASCA tournaments. They're like 8th place there. So it's interesting, right? It's really cool to see that. So I mean, there's like one girl who wins open weight a lot of times over these top girls that compete and travel. And I don't remember her name.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know who you're talking about because I've seen her fight. She's pretty talented.
She never leaves that area. She doesn't go outside of Mexico, or sometimes
she has gone outside of Mexico before, though, hasn't she?
Maybe once.
If not, I mean, must be thinking of someone else.
She never even
who's also from Mexico.
When her team used to do Super Grands all the time, she was the only one that didn't go. And so it was really interesting. She was from from Mario. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now, but Mario's school is called Matt, M-A-T-T. He actually runs the Hyper Mexico down there. But anyways, so that's going to be an exciting event. I think they're doing a lot of live stream and stuff. So for me, that's always a fun one to see. 2 or 3 years ago, Ryan George and Robbie and I were all down there together. So we had a good time. That was fun. So a big weekend for that and to get everything going with sport karate. All right. We kind of touched a little bit, I think, in some ways on it. So let's get into our topic that we're excited about. And I think this will be a fun one to talk about, not just historical aspect, but how it connects to today. And so we are going to.
Which one do you want to do first?
Well, we can kind of go a little. Yeah, I think so. We could talk about one, then talk about the other, and then alternate.
Sure.
So we're wanting to talk about the eras of sport karate. So, and eventually we will at the end kind of pick an era that is our favorite, And so, but we're going to go with 80s. We won't go into 70s. Let's be honest, you and I really.
There wasn't really forms in the 70s.
Well, there was that wasn't. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I'll go with the 80s. So when we start with the 80s, let's go with forms, then we'll go into fighting from there. And that
here's the thing. People should know this topic came from a listener. A listener reached out and said, "Hey, this would be a cool topic." Listen, we're not dumb. We're not idiots. We're not too prideful to say we know better than anybody. If you got a really cool topic like that,
let us know.
We're pretty accessible. Reach out to us. We'll say something. All right?
Right.
We might even name drop you, Troy Sexton. We'll see.
Let's talk about when you think of 80s forms, what comes to your mind? what was the era like and what stands out, you know? For me, really, that was the beginning of the forms era when you really think about it, right?
Yeah.
As far as it becoming
That
tournaments that had grand championships that, you know, like John Chung said, they weren't given a Warrior Cup. Hey, he asked, well, why not? Okay, you get the first. Not he just gave it to him, but hey, win this, and you know, he has it.
and I think it was the first because that's when there started to be a lot of other parity that was happening.
Correct.
Because I think prior to that, there was just a few people. There was just a few people that like, oh, you three are the forms people.
Yeah, people.
And then all of a sudden it just became
started really.
As the 80s started to go, it was like, no, listen here, brother. There's a lot of us.
And it
this
went
is a
up
really
and
awesome thing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So of course, you know, we think in that early 80s, John Chung, George Chung, Cynthia Rothrock, those guys.
When I hear it, I still think Charlie Lee.
Charlie was later.
It was later. But I still think
but I'm saying early 80s, but late 80s was Charlie Lee. So Charlie was that because Charlie was John's student.
Correct.
And so he was a teenager when John was really having in his heyday, and he was taking no tournaments and stuff. And
George Chung
from the West Coast, not related at all. Nope. And then you also have to think of, as we get into like the mid 80s, Keith Hirabayashi, which was the guy who really, you know, and
so here's the thing. I wasn't in martial arts at this time.
Right. Yeah.
I had to find out. And it was like I didn't have to. Like someone made me. Like I found out about all this stuff because I just wanted to learn it. Someone had tapes, like actual VHS tapes, and I would sit down and watch go through a warped looking thing as I'm looking at it, and then I would watch the forms and rewind it and try to mimic what I was seeing. Like, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And that's literally how I found out about this thing, because I wasn't even in martial arts.
Right. I started in 88, so I was at the tail end of it. I was 4. I don't, remember exactly the stuff. I do remember some things that I probably shouldn't remember, like just like my first tournament. Like, it's weird. I think I shared it before. And
well, how shouldn't you remember that?
Well, yeah, but I was 4. I was little. Some people don't remember stuff like that, but I do.
Okay.
But it's like, all right, so you have those people that, our era was like the 80s to 90s, that early 90s, as far as we were getting into it. So we had the people that we looked up to, but the people that those people looked up to were the 80s people. And so, or they were training them. And so, like, they were all their private instructors, like Charlie was teaching Carmichael Simon. So there are ways to, and Stephen Ho was like Carmichael's godfather, which is crazy, So he's at the end of the 80s. Stephen Ho, who became Ninja Turtles. You have Ho Young, Ho Sung. They kind of crossed a little bit in the 90s.
They were into the 90s too.
But
when I think 90s, I think of them.
Right. Then you have John Fournette, who really changed it as far as with the musical forms. And man, it really was like the elevation of it. And then you add in the whole that there was TV and there was big sponsors like Budweiser and stuff.
So what do we do? So if we're going like we're going best of eras, right?
Right.
So let's do it. We're talking about
who's 80s? The best in the 80s?
I mean, I got my guy.
Go.
This is John Chung.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yes. So I go with John Chung. Probably my favorite was Keith Hirabayashi. Just the way that he did, soft style and stuff. There were some other guys too that were awesome, but they weren't as consistent as him. I really just liked what he became and the way he did it as far as that. And it kind of started something which we're going to get to, which in the 90s and even 2000s, where NASCA and America, sport karate, loved Chinese forms,
Yes.
And, so, I mean,
now they just kind of died off.
Yeah, it's died off. So it's really interesting how that went. There was just so many. If you were the one win the Chinese, you were winning the grand no matter what.
Dennis Brown is trying hard to hold on to it.
Yeah,
Tell
bring it
everybody
back.
to keep coming back,
That's
which
right.
I'm okay with because it is exciting.
It's exciting.
I can't do it.
Right.
That's actually the one type of martial art that I really kind of regret. I really wish I would have actually learned a little bit more about. Would have been more of Chinese martial arts. I don't know enough.
I've competed.
We did talk about
competed at least 6-7 times. And yes, I did, do the one thing where I went and bought a broadsword the day of and competed for a tournament. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and won. Crazy. All right, let's get into the fighting now. So this really is like the era that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
Fighting, like where just, again, the tournaments were just so big for fighting back then.
It was all about them. The tournament would happen, but it was like, all right, here's some competition. We're really here because of these guys.
These guys, yeah, exactly. And the sponsors, the TV, everything like that, it had its hype, you know what I mean? And really exciting.
Because when did they started having their own separate divisions because they would fight with the men.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They started having their own separate divisions. It was still the 80s, but when?
Yeah.
It was late, wasn't it?
But
and not everywhere.
I don't think it was late. No, not in a national level. Now, I mean, local, and stuff. I mean, Nicky Carlson, even in the late 80s, was fighting men at tournaments in the Southeast.
In 2000, I was fighting ladies.
Yes, I was actually there at one of those tournaments at were we at a tournament in Wisconsin where where they put the ladies in with you guys? I think so.
Yes, but
yes.
That's not this one, but yeah.
Yeah. So anyways,
didn't you look at that like, you guys got to be kidding me?
Yeah, I did say that. It's like, we just let them, if they really want to do it, they'll, if they want to go for the money, they'll go. I'm like, come on, guys.
Exactly.
Right. Anyways, nasty. Anderson.
It's nice. Yeah, if you look at it, it's like, it's nasty. So, but
that late 70s, early 80s, like one of the number one fighters was Keith Vitale. And Ray McCullum. But really, nasty really, just took over the 80s. But
the cool part about Ray McCullum was Ray McCullum's kicking was better than most of those guys. And Ray McCullum was trying to be the next Bill Wallace. He really was. He was trying to be the next Bill Wallace.
Correct.
Which, ironically, they both fought each other in a kickboxing match. And Bill beat the bejesus out of him.
Yeah. Yes. So nasty really took to it in a whole new level. We talked about this last week, and it's real appropriate for us to bring him up again. Just the years and then just the dominance. But I think in a lot of ways, people, and I don't know if it's looking back at it. I wasn't going there then, but because of him kind of being in some movies and him doing some things, looking back at it, people wanted to be like Billy Blanks. But, Nasty was the guy. But I think Billy Blanks also was like the show in a lot of ways. Like a lot of people still say he's one of the most athletic fighters I've ever seen, or he's one of the most dynamic ones I've seen.
I watched the dude. I watched a video of the dude doing a front flip.
Right. Yeah.
Get someone with a front flip.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like 25 years before Kim Do did it.
Yeah. I mean, hitting some big time competitors too.
He's like a heavyweight or a light heavyweight.
Right. So
Kim Do is not.
There's that. No. There's that. We can go on and on with like AP,
in the 80s,
Terry, Tony, Mafia, those guys coming up and really being in that era and then taken into the 90s, of course.
But this is what's so important. So you remember what it was like. It's so important that people do this today. They still stop and look. They just slow down, stop, and look at tape. Because for me, that's really how I learned so much more about martial arts. Competition. Because my eyes started to be open to what was out there. So if you talk 80s and fighting competition, so I grew up in national karate. I wanted to follow and pay attention to the people that I knew and was close to. Chris kind of mentioned this yesterday with his pod, when he was talking about how he's going to start competing more and his students are going to, want to follow him. Like, well, we just want to follow you. That's what it was like for me. Right.
Exactly.
I wanted to follow guys like John Longstreet and Scott Masterton.
Yeah.
Both really, as far as the point fighting aspect, John Longstreet he had more success. So that's who I wanted to follow.
Yeah.
So when I'm watching,
he was the first, right? The first diamond winner.
Yeah. No. The first diamond winner was Keith Vitale.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Yes. All right. Sorry. I'm sure.
No, it's okay.
I thought that. Yeah.
No, John Longstreet won his in '82.
Yeah. There we go. All right. I know he was one of the first ones. So.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was one of the. But I remember watching him fight. It was like the Battle Land. I'm watching him fight Robert Harris, and I didn't know who the heck Robert Harris was. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this is pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, I want to find some more guys. Right.
Yeah.
So I got tapes and tapes. So I'm just popping more tapes in.
Yeah.
And sure enough, you find a Steve Anderson tape, right? And you're like, my goodness, right? People didn't understand because it was just a culture. So the fighting in the 80s was very flat-footed. You would fight flat. And because there were so many reasons why you had to, groin strikes were a real thing. Right. You could do that. So if you're bouncing up on your toes, all right, watch out.
Yeah.
You're going to get it. You're going to get the business.
Right.
So they had to get low. They had to lean back, right? So Nasty just used that as an advantage.
Yep.
But guys would get – some guys – I watch guys blitz and guys duck under them, grab a pant leg, and like flip them, knock them down, and smash them while they were on the ground. And I heard a guy say this. This was – for those who did not witness it, did not fight in that time, or know anybody who did, this was literally a conversation that happened. I'm hearing somebody talk about how to do that and how to take someone down. They would say, well, see, when they do that, you want to reach for the rear leg because that's where you're going to have the most control. When you pull up, they'll fall down. Don't punch them right away when they hit the ground. You want to just zero in on their forehead. And the first thing that's going to try to come up is their head. So when you smack their head, it's going to make two sounds. When you hit their head and when their head hits the gym floor. That was the conversation that was being spoken with a straight face. That is fighting in the
Yes, fighting it. Wow, that sums it up. Yeah. Wow.
Actually, it was John Longstreet who said that.
Yeah.
Said that. And I'm like and then it was like a group fighting. It's like, all right, everybody, put gear on, let's fight. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore.
All right. So as we kind of move into like the 90s, a lot of things were happening and changing, right? Organizations, everything. NASCA, NBL became a thing more. There were divisions even in the international level with WACO and WKA. All of that was going on. So it changed certain things. You had different fighters and different teams following different leagues when before it was more of just one, right? And you did get, there were big teams. There was a lot of teams and sponsors in the 80s and even late 80s.
As many as today? Not as many as today.
I don't know, but it was big numbers. Like, man, they sponsored everybody.
Not as many teams as today.
Yeah.
There's probably many sponsors. Because right now there's not as many sponsors.
Right. There's a lot of teams.
There's a lot of teams.
But also small
that are sponsored by the same guys.
Small teams. I remember late 80s and even early 90s. If you were a team, you had at least 10 to 15 people on your team. Like it wasn't like a 3-person, like we're just having a men's fighting team. Like they had a full-on team. You had your Metros, your John Paul Mitchells, DKT, Force One, Prestige, those types of teams that really tried to bring it up, and there was so many divides up in that, the guys that were either on their way up or growing in the 80s became like the ones to look at in the 90s, like Anthony Price won, a lot of overalls in the 90s as a senior, You had the Brady's.
Because he was also one of the guys in the 80s as well.
Yes, exactly. And he took that experience into it.
And he fought in the 2000s.
Right.
And he's fought in the 2010s.
Right.
Can you believe that? Think about that.
That's crazy. You see the evolution of kicking in the 90s. Big time.
Because who was it?
Right.
Pedro. From the men, it was Pedro. From the women, it was Nikki.
And other ones too. I mean,
right. They would just happen to be the most successful.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, there's so many on that end. And man, I mean, there's so, and I guess for us, this was when we were coming up, right? So
Absolutely.
We look at it like, yeah, but in these 3 years, this person dominated. And it's hard to say the whole 90s.
Because it was such a different era. So changing every single year. It would not look anything close to the same to the year before.
It's very true. I mean, the only and even people would say, "Oh, but JPM won all the time," but it was different teams. It was never the same type of people, really. You know, I mean, in the beginning, you did have like your consistent. Like one of my favorite Paul Mitchell teams was with Alberto Montron and Pedro, and you could put whoever on the third in there. I mean, I would like a John Payton. That was always a good one, because that was just a different one. If people people need to look up Alberto. Alberto is like his cousin. Pedro's cousin is good. I mean, those guys were awesome. They were also really good. Know who this is. They're also really good at Korean forms. So they were all on, I think 1 year, both of them won like the NBL and the NASCA Korean title or something like that, or were up there. If we're talking about the fighting, let's talk about the difference in styles. So we talked a little bit about the styles of fighting in the 80s. So we're talking about the styles. So we mentioned it with the kicking. Yeah.
But how about just the overall movement? A lot faster. The speed jumped up a lot.
Big time.
And the athleticism jumped up a lot. So,
correct.
And it wasn't just the kicking. Like you watched Pedro, it wasn't just that. Like the actual, like the explosiveness. One of the more explosive fighters that I remember seeing was Kevin Thompson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kevin Thompson was extremely explosive, and it also wasn't guys like him. I watched this person via tapes as well, Jerry Prince.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was a guy also in the 80s. Right. Yeah. Watching Jerry Prince, this dude, he reminds me a little bit of Hamid. Right.
Okay.
They were both lightweights. Both would move from point A to point B extremely fast, but they would never just go from point A to point B. Right. They would go from point A all the way to point L, right? And they would never stop moving, right? And I think Jerry's a better kicker than Hamid, right?
Yeah. Jerry's amazing.
Yeah, he's up there. Oh, yeah.
And a forms kicker, too. Really good forms kicker.
Right. Now, I would say, like, the way that people were up on their toes, just the overall ring movement, using every inch of the ring, a little bit of smoother movement, that started to happen.
You got a big mix of styles more than, you know what I mean? I think, with your, like your blitzing with Brian Ruth, Brian Plimple at the end, you had your guys who were just all around like great fighters, like a Damon who was real smart, that was big in the West Coast and everything at this time. Jose Pacheco, those types of fighters that, were using those smarts against all these different people, man. I mean, there's just so many different ones that, I mean, for me, it was like Ibby and Pedro as the kickers. Mafia really turned it on, but in a different light. I'm not going to say he stopped kicking, but he wasn't doing as much as he did in the 80s. So
but let's not forget all those guys you mentioned. That's early 90s.
For the most part, yeah. Then
Mike Pombero was in the 90s.
Jody, Mike Pombero, Damon.
Like, Mike Pombero was in the 90s, man.
Yeah.
And that's a guy, and I'm like, my goodness, right? He had it.
Brian Ruth, all these guys, man, that really turned it on. Yeah.
That dude. That dude.
Viciousness.
Absolutely. So
and again, I mean, there's so many little different ones. For a while, like the heavyweight in NASCA was Brent Beatty for a good 2 to 3 years. I mean, it's just there's so many different ones, and it's cool, man. I just loved it growing up at that time. For forms, for me, this is the era that stands out because it's what got me and I think most people involved and excited about it. And then at the end of it was when you start seeing some more parody. You know what I mean? But let's be honest. So what's weird with this, all right? The early 90s, you think of Richard Brandon, Christine Ben Rodriguez, Mike Bernardo. Really, those three.
Because the weapons
as far as adults,
really started to become a big deal.
Right. Those three. And honestly, from like 90 to like 94, they consistently won everything. There was a little here and there.
Shoot, in 94, speaking of 94,
yeah,
Richard Brandon
won
a Ford
diamonds
and a weapon diamond.
Right. So there's that. But at the same time, you had the juniors that in a lot of ways people were watching more than they were watching the adults. They were looking up to the juniors like Carmichael, John, Kim Doe, and Mike Jimmy Pham a little later. But these four, this is what I'm talking about, this 90 to 94 kind of range, this was the group that everyone was like, all right, no, just wait till they turn adult. Just wait.
Yes.
And then guess what happened? As soon as they did, everyone else was there kind of, we're retired now. We're going to watch these three. And then there were some other ones that said, hey, I'm going to ruin this three, thing here, like a David Douglas,
I'm so glad you said his name. That's what I was
guys
thinking.
wanted to come, so it was just super exciting, but still there were these main guys up there, that were up there, like, John, Carmichael, Mike, Kim Doe eventually as well, and David, and just like that was that time, So it was really cool to see at the end of that, again, those juniors, same type thing, moving up. And, 99, you're seeing Anthony Atkins and John Sue as adults the first time. And guess what? They paved their way into the 2000s. So
I really think the guys know all of what you said was 100% accurate. But the two people that changed it from their point of impact till forever were John Valera and Mike Chatteranabut. All right.
And I think it's John Valera and Carmichael Simon. So
here's why I say Mike Chat. Here's the reason why I say Mike Chat is because when we started talking about standing kicking, the way he approached it, it changed from his point on. From his point of influence on, well, until 2005, and we'll get into that why. All right. It completely changed. So for a decade, people kicked like Mike. Now they don't kick at all.
Okay.
We'll get into
anyways,
that later.
But as far, so there's that. There's also the first of, not the first, but so we also had those, like we said, Ho Young, Ho Sung, those that were there. I mean, I love guys like Hiro Koda. Man, I loved watching him. But Ming Lu came in the 90s. And
we talked about Chinese forms.
My God. I mean, just killed it. And kind of started that whole thing of John Paul Mitchell having, she was with Metro at one point. Then she also went on with John Paul Mitchell of picking up, these Chinese martial artists that are amazing and just took the world by storm. So
now, wait a second. Speaking of Ming, so when we saw Ming for the first time, tell me if this was your experience as well. When I saw Ming Lu for the first time, I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. She's literally one of the most dynamic martial artists I've ever seen.
Yes.
Okay. I heard this rumor that she was rated like the 108th best Chinese forms competitor, like in China.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Like she was on the C level team. Yeah. She was not on the A or B level team like some of the other ones like DX and stuff that were when they came over. She was on the C level team. So yeah, it's really crazy. But for me, so her presence and like her eyes and everything was what really did it. And people were like, yeah, but she didn't really make a mean face. Like, just look at the way she carried herself. That's all she had to do. So in the pauses is what
Absolutely
she did
right.
better than others. And maybe that's something that didn't transfer over in that world. You know what? It was more of a, this is the way it's done, and that's kind of it kind of thing, you know? So I don't know, but those are the types of things I remember. And then also Casey Marks moving up to adults, and that really turned into when we move into the 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
Let's get into 2000 for forms, because honestly, all right.
That's
so,
it, man.
So to me, the most dynamic and the one that changed everything for forms was the 90s. But when you really look at like the most competitors that were high level, 2000s is really hard to argue. There's just
some of the reasons why were some of the rule changes. So John Valera retired in 1999.
Yeah.
When he was inducted into the Diamond Nationals Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
It was in 2002, right? So yeah, it's pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
So I'm bumping up with him. I'm talking to him at a party afterwards, and I'm like, yo, man, come on. What's the chances you ever compete again? He goes, oh, absolutely 0%. It'll never, ever happen again.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, really? And he was just looking at me, which, by the way, he is super short.
Yes.
So he's like, oh, yeah.
I'm taller than him. It's kind of funny.
I didn't realize that at the time because I was looking at him on stage. So whatever.
Right.
So, but he's like, oh, yeah, there's 0 chance I ever compete in a karate tournament ever again. And he said that so emphatically. And I'm like so ear to ear smile, just like, yeah, we're going to compete again. And he's like, oh, no, you can just take that idea you had and just throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
Like, what? But the division he would compete in the 90s was Korean.
Yeah, Korean. Yeah.
And he basically did a creative form.
Right.
Right? And he was allowed to do that with what the rules were at the time.
Yeah. Same thing. Like Dave McCumber did the same thing the early 90s. Several different ones did that. What's funny is that when he first moved into that division, I think 93 was his first time competing in that. He was trying to do the American division. Guess who was
American
winning
Hardstyle?
Right, but guess who was actually winning the American Hardstyle division?
When, in the 90s?
Yes. Ho Young Pak was actually winning the American division because his brother was winning the Chinese division.
That is a trivia question right there.
Right.
I would never have gotten that.
Really interesting. Then you also had Larry Lamb that finally was trying to get up there because he had been behind Ho Young for years. So it was just a weird time. You know what I mean? Same thing when we get into this 2000s, the rules change. You're seeing more Japanese styles. You're seeing more Korean styles. You're seeing how good the NBL Japanese forms are with a Keith Weston and like a Matt Bowles and John Sue and those guys. You're seeing more crossover, especially the early, really almost all the 2000s. You see more crossover. People doing both. Both leagues, right? NBL, NASCA.
I think about 2000, there was a lot of teams would do leagues. So like you were a part of teams that did that.
Yeah.
And from what I remember,
John Paul did for a couple
Elite,
years.
CJB, SCS, John Paul Mitchell would do.
John Chung's team, Sidekick actually had an NBL team, a NASCA team, and others too. Yeah, Crane, that's right. And so, I mean, it's and there IDC did more of mostly just NASCA, and then when they switched over to WSKF, it was a little different. But I'm trying to think of, there was a couple others, but anyways,
that did both.
Yeah, DKT Force One always did in the 90s. But anyways, it was just, man, I mean, honestly, the names that we could say would be sitting here all night.
In 2000?
So, it's crazy. But again,
right now, it's the best.
Casey, Daniel Sterling. I'm going to be, Steve Terada. I'm thinking like John Sue, high level, and let's just stick with adults. But, I mean, we could talk,
Marcel Jones.
Yeah. Marcel, the end of that range. Same thing with Matt Emming. Man, there's so many that, I'm forgetting.
DX. We mentioned DX.
DX. I mean, just insane. And
Anthony DeMarco.
Right. Anthony DeMarco.
That dude was as cool as the other side of the pillow.
The return of like a Gabe Renaga, who was a 90s star, that came back for 2 years. I mean, just there's so many things like that were cool. Getting to see someone like a Jason Tankson do forms and fighting. I mean,
yes.
I mean, and it's just really cool to that. I mean, and we're not even touching, everybody. I mean, there's so many.
No.
The
so really
looking
at it,
Mark
Canizzato. Some of the things that really changed were the rules that changed. So American Hardstyle, that division was gone.
Right.
Korean division changed to actual Korean form.
Right.
Japanese form became a real thing. Musical forms was a much bigger thing. The music in your form became a lot more important then. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Not everybody. It wasn't just everybody just put on the soundtrack of Mortal Kombat and then go do your form.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You actually had.
Yeah, and then you had Extreme, and then you had Creative later on. That was 2004.
That's when it died.
2004. But it still picked in some ways.
It died. Yeah. No, we're talking about it, so we're going to talk about it. Here's what it is. No, I'm going to say it. So here's what it is. NASCAR ruined it. They ruined it. Here's what happened. The thought process, I don't know where their thoughts were going with this, because it was not one person's idea. Right. There was many people's idea, was that, hey, why don't we have a separate division for people who just want to do all the extreme tricks, and then a separate division for those who don't do all those tricks, and we'll call it Creative and Extreme. Right. And I remember having the conversation like, why? Why do you want to do that? Oh, because the people who win those divisions, they're just the people who do the best tricks. Like, no, that's not true. Like, yeah, it is. Like, no, see, someone lied to you, told you that, and then you changed the rules forever based off of someone else's lie that you want to believe.
Really, they shouldn't have ever changed the name. American could have been like the Creative, but with a lot better rules. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to do that, like American style forms, and then you could have, then musical could be whatever you want to do.
That's what I thought Creative was going to be. I thought it was going to be, all right, here's the American Hardstyle, which some of the rules about that was, like, you couldn't just do a barrel roll or a butterfly twist. You had to have a kick on it. There had to be something like acro kicking would be the way that you would call it.
Or like when we worked on doing it in the NBL, there was no limit on your spins as long as it was a kick. We're not limiting the elevation of martial arts kicking. We're limiting the gymnastics. We're just taking that part out. So, and I think that's kind of where it should have been, was that.
That is a much better rule than where NASCAR went with it. NASCAR ruined it. So from that point on, this is what I say, the reason why I say that is from that point on, standing kicking stopped. It just became like people did it because they were doing it. People did it because they were good at it. But the moment from that point, anybody who started martial arts about 2005, 6, from that point on, they weren't doing that.
It's very true.
They weren't even doing it. Yeah. Right? Because people train for how they're going to perform and compete. Just like people study for what the test is going to be like.
Yeah.
Why would you study for something that's not, is never going to be on the test? That wouldn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
Why would you, if you got all this time that you have to cram and study for, what in the world would you study for something is not going to be there? It's the same type of thing.
And then on the other end, so NBL always had a 3-kick rule. You had to do.
I remember that.
3 kicks. And then you had those people that were like, you know what? I can make this where it doesn't say how high my kicks got to be. So when I bow into my form, I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3. There's my 3 kicks. I'm good.
But I don't even hate that because they're being creative about it.
Oh, yes. But then when everyone did it, it's not that creative. Okay. It's creative when the first person does it, but not when 20 people do it. So there's other,
they should get knocked down.
But there's other ways, you know what I'm saying? But so that's kind of why that rule even got rid of, because it wasn't being used the way it was meant to be. Right. So 2000s, pretty awesome. I know you're I'm a huge fan of 2000s.
But you can look at it objectively.
Oh, yes, big time.
Like, not as the person, as the era.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes,
Because
yes.
I think if you look at it as like, all right, the competitor, if you look at the competitors today, they win, right? But you look at the era,
Yeah.
that's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I think just the amount of people, the parody, you know what I mean, was really cool, and it really pushed other people, up. So,
But,
all right.
and it's the juniors were so good. Do you remember I just remember watching Sammy Vasquez and Matt Emick just
and Rudy and those
battle.
guys. I mean, just
Rudy.
Awesome, yeah. So awesome stuff. Wayne Dalglish, so many guys.
Yes.
So, all right, let's get into, because we got
The
3 more
fighting.
things to do.
The
So
fighting.
fighting, fun.
Yeah.
The really emergence of the best fighter.
Yep. Raymond Daniels.
We have seen.
He was
Raymond
on the scene for a couple of years in the late 90s. He wasn't winning and dominating them.
Right.
I remember fighting him. He and I were lightweights together. I remember fighting him in 1999 and thinking like I was not prepared for this. Like, what in the world just happened to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mike Bombero beat him pretty, not I want to say handily, but he had a pretty good strategy, and he did not look phased at all. And Mike P he just beat him.
Right.
And didn't look like he was working really hard.
Correct.
And that just opened my eyes to like, that guy just showed me something I'd never seen before. And you look like you weren't worried at all.
Yeah.
What am I in for? Right. So that's where the athleticism just kept going up. Yeah. So like you said, the emergence of that. But Jason, thanks.
I look at it so many different ways. I see if the 3 fighters that really stood out of that time, especially from the beginning, even all the way to the end of it, but mostly that kind of first half, was Jason, Raymond, and Trevor, and then you also had people like Damon and Bryan. And so when I think of those people, I think of NBL fighters. So that was really, to me, when people really started noticing that, man, whatever these guys are coming up from this NBL scene, they can win on both leagues, NASCA, NBL, whatever,
The great thing about the NBL fighters at that time, which is true of WACO fighters today,
correct,
which is they were a lot more conditioned for the long fight.
Yes.
So
big time.
At that time, NASCA was doing first to 5.
Yeah.
And NBL didn't have anything like that. It was
at that time, there was no 10-point spread like there is now. So
yeah.
I mean, I've seen Raymond beat someone 21-0 or something like that. The craziest thing I remember was watching Raymond at 98 Super Grands in continuous and beat someone 150 points to 20 or something, 21 or something.
Time out.
Yeah,
what?
It's just crazy.
No. That did not happen.
Yes.
What did you just say the
score was? It was way over 100. So I'm thinking it was like 100 and maybe I'm exaggerating, 150, but it was at like 108, 110, something like that at 98 Super Grands in Savannah, Georgia. I mean, this guy only scored like
how many
15,
rounds?
20, 2 rounds, 2 1-minute rounds. And he just scored like insane, just kick after kick after kick after blitz after. It was just, and so you got these judges like, it was insane.
Well, wait, no, I'm not. I can't get off of this for a moment. I'm literally, my mind is spinning. I can't comprehend this.
I was 14, so maybe
so
some of
the judges would have had to almost been in cahoots with this to say, stop, 2 points, go, stop.
No.
Go.
There's no stop.
Oh, and that would be it. Okay,
it's continuous. Right. As I said, continuous, bro. Continuous.
Okay.
Right. I'm just saying how. I said continuous. No.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah. So anyways, just the emergence of those guys and the rivalry of Jason and Raymond, and then the teams, with the CJB and the JPM and the Straight Up and the emergence of those different people, and then it was kind of like everyone was like, is anyone really going to challenge Raymond at the end of those kind of years,
Well, it went through a lot of different phases, like you mentioned. Okay. Yeah. So it went through that. And early on, it was like, right away, in 2000, it was like, hello, here I am. Jotty was very much still right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't mention,
in the middle of it, you got to remember that's when the super fights started.
Yeah.
In 04, it started, and then in 05, everybody was doing super fights, right?
Yep.
So we're right in the smack dab in the middle.
Yep.
So that was a different thing too.
Yeah.
So,
and that brought back fighters like Brian Ruth that took a break for a while, you know, for a couple years, you know. It was crazy. And when. So it's just a whole different time, man. I really enjoyed looking at that. For me, it was fun. I think on the team fight era, maybe because I was involved in it in some way, like I knew the ins and outs, but it was really cool to see that, you know, just the rivalries with team fighting.
I don't think it was the best fighting era.
No, I don't.
I think the top end guys were so good, but the gap between
big time
6 guys who could win the division and everybody else was a mountain of a gap. You would get, and people weren't cheeseburgers.
No.
All right? No. They would have ended up becoming something. But the skill level between the 5 or 6, maybe on a good tournament, 7 guys who possibly could win the tournament, skill level between them and everybody else, there was no chance, right? Like, here's an example, okay? All right. Avery Plowden won the Warrior Cup.
Yeah.
Last year. He lost first round to Devin Hopper.
Right.
That would never happen in the early 2000s. It would be impossible for that to happen.
There were like top level people, but like really it was just first and second in each division. You kind of knew who they were going to be, you know.
Exactly. You knew the couple guys, right? And
so
that was it. There was not gonna. There could be upsets, but come on, not really. There would be some tournaments like when you go to Kentucky, you'd be like, oh yeah, some of these guys
or
could
watch
upset some guys.
Yeah. Or like like some people in NASCAR didn't really know Ryan Huntley as much, but when he came to like Ocean State that year in 2000, he beat everybody in those divisions. You know, it was that kind of thing. You know, and he beat Trevor and certain ones like that. So there's got that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, man, it's different time. All right, as we get into 2010s with fighting, I'd say it's the era of really having international fighting kind of really being known more. You know, with the Irish Open really becoming the big thing that everyone talks about, not just in Europe. More people recognizing Waco stuff more than they did before. They'll want to do more international. And
but let's
also them coming here and us going over there.
But let's look at this for a moment, though. So, in 2002, who was the group of Americans who went to the Irish Open in 2002? There was a group of Americans. I think it was like Team Victory.
I thought it was Victory, yeah.
And they went, and no one was really going prior to that.
Right.
And then they went, and I think they won the team fighting. Right, match. But we've been likely. Okay.
Was it 2 or 3? I thought it was a 3, but whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Either way. All right. And it was at that point where it was like, okay, there might be a thing here. And then I remember, 4 years later, all of a sudden it was a thing.
Yeah.
People were there.
Yeah.
And I still felt like, I've said this before, I still felt like, what's the point? Come on now. Yeah. Do you really have to go? Why?
Yeah.
It's just something fun to do. All right, go ahead. Have fun. Yeah. Go do it. But don't tell yourself that you're beating the best fighters in the world. It's literally what I was thinking to myself, right? And in I remember like 2013, 2014, I'm like, I have no ambition to go. Yeah. I really have no ambition to go. The best fighters in the world are in the States.
Yeah.
They're here. I'm going to fight them. That's what I want to do, right? Let's do that. And someone said, once you go, you'll understand. So I go there, and I understood.
Yeah.
I understood. But what I understood was not that they're better, because I still don't believe that. Right? All right. What I understood was the culture around it. When you go to a national tournament in the States now, there's so many. Like, you just look over in the corner, you see guys, with a sword. You see a team demo up on a stage. You see a couple guys over in the corner just warming up, blitzing a pad. it would be as if the only thing you saw is just guys warming up to fight.
Yeah.
The first time I walked in that building, I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. I thought it was something out of a movie. Like, this is not real.
Yeah. It
But
looks
it
like
is.
what the tryouts for Best of the Best, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That is what it looked like.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it looked like. And if you're listening to this and you don't know what we're talking about, Best of the Best is, go punch yourself in the chest. All right.
Twice.
And then go watch that movie. All right?
Yes.
So, yeah. I just remember thinking, like, all right, this is something really cool. Right.
Yeah.
But they still don't know what to do if you're kicking at them. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Yeah.
as far as fighters, I mean, but that really was when, those, we got to see some Harold Schmidt, we got to see Zola, we got to see some of those guys come over, and again, not to say that they didn't come over in the late 2000s, because there was that, but you got to, to see that.
It wasn't just about, here's what was great, is it wasn't just about coming here or going there.
No.
It was like almost like a realization and a validation that, like, it doesn't matter where we're going. We have the internet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
We can see if we're any good.
Yeah.
Right? We can see if your tournament's any good. We can see if the fighter you are good. Right?
Yeah.
We could just look and go, okay, I want to fight you.
Right.
All right, I want to fight you. Right?
Right.
And there's just people like that where, like, I've been like, oh yeah, I want to fight you. I want to see, or I want to see you fight.
Yeah.
I want to see this. I want to see how this goes.
That's
and
cool.
So, and then when I think of that, I think of when as long as we're talking about European fighters. Corrali.
Yeah.
They were a standard, right? And we're gonna talk about them later once we do a brief little update on how the Athens Challenge went, right? Because that just happened over the past weekend. Right?
Yeah, that'll be real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, that will be real quick. But Corrali has a stable. All they do is point fight.
Yeah.
Right? They point fight. They have some people who kickbox, but they level up in rank.
Right.
Based off of
By
how
that.
they perform.
True.
Right? So,
yeah.
And I got a chance to talk to Istvan. Istvan is Istvan Corrali, right?
Yeah.
It's him, his martial arts school, and that's his team. He's a very smart guy, but he understands it. He's like, listen, we're in Eastern Europe. We don't have all the luxuries and benefits of a prosperous economy like here in Western Europe, because that's where I was in Ireland when we were talking to him, right? And he goes, you guys don't understand. You guys just kind of come and go, and you train or you don't train, and you could do this thing or you could do that thing. It's not like that in Eastern Europe. I'm like, damn, all right? They take it seriously. They don't have lots of other things that they do or that they have available to them. We were thinking like that, like, all right, this has become a thing.
Yeah.
Now the forms.
Well, yeah, but let's just go. All right, so we still have.
Okay, let's stay on fire.
Yeah. Well, just for a second, I mean, we just got to mention some. We talk about Zolt. We talk about that. We see really Jack Felton turn into his own. Ross Levine turn into their own. Raymond still dominating. It's still the chase for that. You have some of those people, but I think over this time, the depth, especially as we're seeing now, within the divisions, got better. Sometimes it kind of went up and down throughout that time, but I think right now we're really seeing that the depth is pretty good. When we were talking,
I think
about
that's when Robbie LaVar got really good too.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
he really came into his own.
Compared to maybe the 2000s, like where you were saying, where it was kind of top heavy in certain ways. I still think in some divisions there was some parity, but you knew if Jason and Raymond are in there, they're going to end up somehow, if they don't take themselves out, or if they're not matched up somewhere, they were going to be in there, or, there'll be like a Brian Plimple or something. So, or Johnny. So, I mean, I think that, we really see the depth more. And I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to see where it goes into it. And also, again, we always mess up in as far as the women's fighting. I think,
I'm so glad you went there.
Yeah, I think, you had the Chelsea, you have Morgan. In that way, there is a lot of competitors, actually, and the depth's really good here. but then you have here with
those two.
Yeah.
When those two were competing
we're on, right
at the same time,
right.
it was them and everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I mean it's they're at that. No, that was still that I mean that 2000s era was the end of Nikki's career.
Yep.
Tara, Regina, Claire, that they ruled that. Noreen, not Noreen, Nancy. Though that kind of era. So I mean, it's just that it's really cool for me. I think women's fighting without that 2000s era. I mean, you got to also remember like Casey Nash, those types of people. I think
Joyce
without
Blanco.
Joyce, without that 2000s era, I don't know if we would have what we have now in women's fighting. I just think they really took it to the next level.
One of my favorite ones was from that area in the 2000s was Deshaun Bay.
Yes. Awesome.
She made it cool.
She did.
To really look cool.
Yeah.
While
she
fighting.
Inspired Kyle Richards, like that was where he got his look.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So,
yes.
And the forums. All right. So the forums, I think, was when it really went downhill because there were.
We're talking 2010s?
Yes. We're not only dividing divisions up more, we're now dividing grands more and more. There are some really positive things in this time. I think getting to see more traditional-based Japanese forms is great. Seeing the weapons, honestly, has gone to a whole nother level. We got to give props to that with Jackson and Kalman.
Yeah, let's talk about the pluses.
Kalman and Matt Emming and those people that really elevated it
as
they were going out. The double bow, I mean, just adding more to what we already had. I mean, that's where I think with the weapons was something that people, didn't think. Like, okay, instead of we're kind of stuck with what else we can do with one bow. How about let's do two? How about let's do chucks with blades on them? How about let's do a 3-sectional this or that? Like it kind of got to that. Let's add a comma with a chuck. Let's do it,
Or do like Rashad and add a comma and a sword. Like, what?
I loved it. And then there's a girl before that was doing a nunchuck and a sword. Or some people have one flying comma and a sword. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do it. I think you're also getting more parity and people actually learning more weapons, right? Instead of just, all right, this is my one weapon I do. Like
that's a good point.
You could do it. You see a Rashad doing that. Someone in the middle of all this, Tim Conkle, who was really big in NBL and also won WACO, WKA, all the different stuff. He can do like every weapon at a high level. Awesome. There's a lot of people like that. So that was something cool about this era. The forms, I think you used to always end the finals with forms, you know what I mean? With like open forms and then fighting. That was always it. Now it's kind of like the weapons that's kind of taken over. Because in some ways, they didn't split up the weapons as much for a long time until like this past year as they did the forms. And so I think it made the forms less special than the weapons grand. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh, I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And then as far as, dominance from everyone, females, Caitlin Deshelle, and Mackenzie.
Caitlin Deshelle, when you talk about forms, if you're talking about dominant forms, Caitlin Deshelle is the standard.
Yeah. So,
especially in 2010.
Yeah. I mean, and so, I mean, it's a whole different way. And I think we're going to finally see something. I hope to see something new as we get in. I do think from 2010s up, certain things got more standardized, It really started in the 2000s is where everyone had to go to the corner and do a round off flash or whatever. But what's funny is that is still the thing. Now that's weird to me. So, I think we kind of covered it all on that, right?
So let's
pick. Like, what's your favorite?
My favorite forms era is the 90s. It's the 2000s.
Okay.
Right?
Most important was
the 90s.
Okay. I think we agree on that too. So I say yes. Most important was the 90s. My favorite was the 2000s. All right. Next one.
Now, fighting. This is a hard one.
All right,
The deepest might be now.
In some ways. Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll say, and it's hard. I don't want to say the best, but I don't know. I don't want to say the best. There's a lot of.
Like I said, you could say most important.
I looked at the 30s and the 40s division at the AK Warrior Cup, and I'm like, man, these guys are killing it. Yeah. And I looked at the 18 plus, and I'm like, you two are killing it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it's so deep. But it's like just like I mentioned before. Whenever would you see Anthony Price go out first round in a tournament? Impossible. You would never see that. You know what I mean? When would you see Terry Kramer go out the first round?
Right. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in light heavy, Roman and Avery are there, and they match up with each other first round. One of them's got to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One of them's got to go. That's why I'm just like, I'm torn.
It was a lot different in the 80s too. I think 80s was still. Now, I mean, I hear stories of just, you lined up and you stood next to whoever you wanted to fight.
That did happen. You could manipulate the rules that way a lot.
Right. So it was a lot different.
You would stand next to a cheeseburger who didn't know what was happening.
Right. Or you had a local fighter. Or you had a local fighter who was really good that wanted to be like, listen, he don't know who I am. I'm gonna whoop this dude. And that happened a bunch. You have someone like a Jay Bell that did that a lot, and that's how he kind of came up. I mean, it's crazy. For me, most important era is the 80s. My favorite.
I think the most important was the 90s.
So I'm going to stick with most important 80s. My favorite, I'm still, that's hard for me because I think I got more no, that's not true. I'm going to go with my favorites, the 90s. I am. Even though it's.
So you didn't say the best. You didn't. Oh,
I did not say the best. I didn't say the best.
Favorite.
Yeah, and see, I don't even know if I can even agree on that because, man, I had so much fun with being with CJB in the 2000s, and just how crazy it was. But Elite was fun too in the 90s. Trying to beat Paul Mitchell, it was like, man, and it was different in 2000 because we were the team for a while, So it was a different kind of thing. So it's funny.
I think the most important era for fighting was the 90s, and I think the deepest is definitely the 2010s.
2010s. All right, cool.
And the deepest in talent, not necessarily full-on competitors.
No, well, and again, we pay attention now to international events. That's something we didn't do before. Some of that has to do with the internet, YouTube, Facebook, everything like that. Lewis. Yeah, there's so much. But still, I mean, there was just, when Matt Winsper showed up Super Grands, everyone was like, it was like the little tape that everyone wanted to do. And then when in 2000, when YouTube came out, people started showing tapes of him when he came and trained with Jerry Fondes. It was just crazy. International fighting was always a big deal, but we kind of were like, there's one or two. Now it's a lot. So.
Speaking of, that'll bring us to our competitors of the week.
Yes.
And my competitor of the week is an international fighter, was. My competitor of the week is Ireland's own Robbie McMenamy. So Robbie has a very interesting and unique fighting style. All right. Robbie fights flat-footed.
Yeah.
He fights flat-footed, and he's very into powerlifting. Robbie has forearms the size of your quad, right? So he can literally just have his front hand out, and if you attack, or if he attacks, or something, his front arm touches yours, you lose, right?
Right.
So you can't do it on his terms, right? You have to get him to second guess. The problem with Robbie is his timing is so good, right? He doesn't give up what he's going to do because he doesn't give anything up. He doesn't let on that he's going to do anything. He'll just be, like I said, he just sits there flat-footed. And you would think, like, all right, that's a very dated way to fight, and it is. Yet, like a couple of years ago, he and Zolt went into like double overtime for the world championship, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, one of the best of the era, right, is going into double overtime against a guy who fights as if he was fighting in 1983. But that's for real, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's a super athletic guy. He can do every move. Never fought him. I fought on a team matchup against him, and I knew, like, all right, he's going to be their best fighter. Let's sacrifice a lamb, all right? And he went out there, the guy went out there, he got beat. Okay. So then we go out there and win one, all right? And it was just constant, go back and forth, all right? Because that was when we did the team fighting matchup. That was when it was the amount of wins versus the amount of points, right? Whichever team won the most matches, not who won the most points.
Correct.
Which I kind of like. I kind of like it both ways. You know, I as long as I know what the rules are. There was one time where I did not know that rule.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, sacrifice land. Like, all right, you go out there, see what you can get. And then it was 18-2, and you're like, why you guys still keep score? What? And we almost won that matchup too. All right.
Wow.
We lost by 2. Couldn't believe that. All right. Anyway, so Robbie McMenamy, he has a martial arts school, at least one, in the Dublin-ish area, and his school is like half powerlifting, half kickboxing, right?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance to pay attention to him, the guy's for real. Like, I think he actually has, or I know he's done powerlifting competitions, but I think he's actually done it on like the Ireland's national level as well, right? And he does like Olympic lifts. So look at him. He's got a lot of good fighters in his camp. I've fought a couple guys in his camp before. Got him Kevin Smith, who's really, really good too. Robbie McMenamy, one of the best, if not between he and Dean Barry, saying who are the best fighters in the history of Ireland's point fighters, right? Robbie McMenamy is my competitor of the week.
Awesome, man. All right, so my competitor of the week is another one who has a different style, an awkward style. One of my best friends in sport karate, Bryan Young. So Bryan Young is from California. He's from Kinji's Kaju Kimbo, same school as Leon Jefferson, and several others that are out there that have competed at NBL and such. Keon, who is still one of my favorite junior fighters ever. Wish he would have, done at least 1 or 2 years of adults. But anyways, Bryan, Bryan.
He did a couple tournaments as adults, but not seasons.
No, he didn't. Yeah.
He didn't do any tournaments? I thought I saw him fight.
He went on to college, play baseball and stuff. So yeah. Anyways, so Bryan, really, I guess I kind of started seeing him at 2003, 2004 kind of range. Eventually got on to GOP, and started just being a great fighter. And always was known for about 6 years, kind of the way I was with Forms in the NBL. It was like he got second place at, he won every national tournament, but lost at Super Grands for a very long time. And then 2010 Super Grands, he went in as a wild card, joined proper. Him and I had our debut tournament at the same time, Super Grands 2010. Came back from knee surgery, everything. First tournament, really back, trying to get back into it. He was big in football and stuff. And he did 14 fights to win the world title. It was double elimination. He went in the very beginning all the way there. He beat Mike Jefferson to win the finals.
What year was this?
2010. And then and then back to back to back without breaks for a long time. It was like 7 fights in a row. Just you get 1
See,
minute
that's what
break
I
or
mean,
something.
and that's what I mean. Like
yeah.
the top NBL fighters at that time, they just got to have a better condition.
Right. And so he was able to do that. What I love about Bryan's style, it's really different because it's more of a defensive style. You don't see, he does different things that people don't do with his hands and stuff. He's not really a kicker. He doesn't kick, but he will sometimes find ways to hit people with like hook kicks to the body and different things, just really different. Also one of the best coaches that, was really a big part of Proper when they started moving up, him and Leon, he helped Leon become the fighter he was. And same thing with Leon. Leon helped him become as well too. So one of my best friends, I talked about him before, with YCL, and with being a promoter. But man, just one of my favorite fighters, just always just exciting and intense. You know what I mean? And like when he was up there fight, it was time to go. And I love that. Like when you can feel that energy, it's pretty cool.
Well, he's super athletic too. So
right.
He's able to do all the moves.
Yeah.
So you can't really put him in a position where there's something like, oh, you're stuck. You can't do something.
Correct.
Because he can come up with a lot of different things.
Yes, he can. He's had to. So
now, does he have? Am I wrong? Does he have a tournament?
Not anymore. No, he had it for 2 years. 2
or
or 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not crazy.
So he doesn't.
It did.
No, he lives in Texas now. Yeah, because we talked about it with him, myself, and Apple having our karate tournaments and stuff in the 2010s, 2013s. But he lives in Austin, Texas now, him and his family, and still getting that itch. He listens to our show, so he says that since he's been listening, he's been wanting to get that itch to get back. He's like, no, I can't do that. He's younger than me. I'm like, come on, man, you got to do this.
It's not that hard.
That's
Just
right. You
go
got
out there and punch someone in the head.
That's right. So Bryan Young
Travis?
is my Travis. Bryan Young's my competitor of the week. So
one of these episodes, Travis is going to be one of our competitors of the week, and we're going to hype him up. We're going to
we're going to get him all pumped.
Yeah,
I got this.
I'll compete tomorrow.
We're going to start sending T-shirts, to people.
I won't compete, so I'll just go back and.
Maybe that's what we need to do. Start sending T-shirts or something to these people that get for competitor of the week, and then just they're strutting around like I'm the inside scoop.
That could be something.
Hey,
that's not bad.
And then we'll do it with people like him and make him and get him all pumped up.
You're either onto something or you're on something.
That's right. Oh man. Before we finish up, like you said, Athens. They talked about that. I didn't really get to see much. You probably did more than I. I saw some of the
I saw a little
stuff.
bit. So
I knew
pay
that.
Attention to it. I've really wanted to go to the Athens Challenge for a little while.
Me too. That was always one that I thought was cool in the area and everything.
Yeah, I've wanted to go because Greece has some really good point fighters, and it's Greece.
Yeah,
that would be cool to go to.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but that has not happened up until this point. So I've never been to the Athens Challenge. So, so if someone wants to have the inside scoop, go. And
there you go.
We'll do lots of press for you.
We will do whatever. Let's make it happen.
We'll be in English. We'll not be in Greek. Sorry. Not that good. But anyway, the Athens Challenge was good. I pay attention to it. Anytime they have one, just like when they had the Waterford Open Nationals. That was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we mentioned this. So like Corrali, I don't understand this. This is strange to me. In Europe, for the most part, doesn't have like teams, like a competition team. Like they don't have like a team like Impacts, or they wouldn't have like a dojo or also they wouldn't have something like that. They just have their clubs, and then a sponsor might sponsor that club or country, right? Usually top 10 will sponsor that country, right?
Yeah.
Which is why, like, okay, that's an example. We mentioned him. When Roman fights as an individual, he is individually sponsored by top 10, right?
Yeah.
He's one of their top tier athletes. But when he fights team fight, he fights for team top 10 Germany. Austria, Germany, not that big of a stretch. We get it. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
However, Chris Aston, right?
Yeah.
From England, fights for Team Corrali.
Right.
Now, Chris and Christian are really good friends. That much, that I do know.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously that must have played a part in it. I just still don't get it. Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a team. Like, hey, this is your club. All right. And it's fine. I mean, everybody can do whatever they want, but it's like, it's all right. But so that part I didn't get. I thought that was kind of strange. Now,
I wanted to learn more about that. I was trying to figure that out. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. But I think 2 weeks ago or a week ago, they had another tournament and they all had the same, like, they had like these jerseys on that everyone had to wear with a number on it. And that was how they fought. So you didn't really see that. So I was trying to figure that out. But anyways.
And Chris has his own school and club. Yeah. And it's interesting. It's called AKA.
All right.
Aston's Kickboxing Association, I believe is what it is.
Nice.
Right. So, yeah. Now, as far as the actual tournament.
Yeah.
So that's an area where the lighter you are, the deeper it gets. Like, it is hard to win in the lighter weights, right? So you'll see competitors will compete in their weight class, and you're allowed to compete in a weight class or two above. You can do that.
Yeah.
Which
Tyreek did,
and
Troy did too.
Both did that.
Yeah,
right?
Troy got silver in both of his.
I think it was minus 89 and minus 94.
Right. And
those are really hard weight classes to fight in.
He won one of his. Tyreek did. He lost.
He won minus 74.
Right. And I think bronze in the other or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he lost in the open weight to
a bronze.
A fighter from Greece. That's what Jared told me. They lost to a fighter from Greece. I'm not sure which one.
But he didn't win the whole thing. It was a Russian fighter who won the whole thing, I believe.
Right.
So, my first experience.
And then he won the junior open weight, which is
Tyreek won the junior open weight.
Under, or 16 to 18, and he's 18. So
because he's been fighting adult for the past 5 years.
Yeah. So
now my first experience with Russian point fighters, man, it was interesting. So I don't know if I mentioned this before, but there was this kid. Well, first of all, his dad reached out to me. I don't know how he found me. All right. He's from.
Yeah, I remember this.
He's from St. Petersburg. Yeah. He reaches out to me. He says, "I heard of you. All right. My family's coming to Chicago to visit me for the. He's coming to visit me for the summer, and we want to do some training. And then, can he come train at your school? Sure, we'll set it up. By the way, my son doesn't speak English. Okay, this is good. This is gonna be a problem. So it was good. So the kid was super talented. And he was an orange belt and was whooping on my brown belts. And I'm like, wait a minute, time out. He's a what? And he's like, oh, yeah, he's been an orange belt for 2 years. And I'm like, all right, well then that's why. So, okay, right? And all they do is point fight.
Yeah.
So it was a really big deal. So that was my first experience to Russian point fighters. And then he started telling me a little bit more about it because his dad speaks English. So he was able to tell me. And so I really looked into it. Like, that's a whole nother area where they're really dope.
Yeah.
Right? So
watching the World Championships this year, I was impressed with several of them. So
yeah. Now I think the guy who won, he was minus 57.
Right. Wow.
That is air light.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I can't even think that light. So.
And then the girl that won, I watched.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the way her name you say it, but I watched a couple of the highlights of her fights, and then saw her Instagram page with some of that. Impressive. I didn't get to see the whole fight or anything yet, but I'll definitely look her up more.
I'm glad that Tyreek and Troy went because their styles translate well. And that's the thing is fighting that style. You don't have to be the best fighter for your style to translate well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are some people that can do that really, really well, and they can go over there and all of a sudden they're just ripping it up. Gosh, blanking. Remind me, Trevor Nash's student, Alex. Come on.
Oh, Alex. I can't think of his name. Younger one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, great kicker. All right.
Yeah.
His style translates really well. We're gonna think of it later. All right.
Yeah, I know exactly who it is. But yeah. Anyways,
his style translates really well. Never really seen him win anything in the States,
right.
or in Canada for that matter. Really never seen him win anything. Right. But his style translates well. All right. Now Troy and Tyreek, they've won a bunch of things. But there's some guys that can go over there. All right. And they can understand the system and the rules. Whereas you can win a lot, like Anthony Merrick's will win a lot over here. And I think when he first started going over there, it did not translate well. Right. So I'm interested to see how many Americans go to the Irish Open and go look at that. I want to see that. I know I've heard of a decent amount that are going to go. Yeah. So.
All right. So as we finish up, and we're kind of talking about Americans that do well.
Yeah.
Over there. Let's tell everyone what we got next week. We got a cool
drop
interview.
it?
Well, yeah. Why not?
Let's do it. I've been jacked about it. I have not let on one bit. So our special guest next week is the one, the only Bailey Murphy.
That's right.
So it's going to be
excited.
Good. Yeah. We've chatted with him a little bit via Messenger, just kind of about this.
Yeah.
Just about things in general.
Yeah.
And I mentioned before, like, I hope this guy does a lot. Right? A lot of Waco events too. Just he's so smooth and athletic. But we're gonna let him talk a lot.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into what other sports he does, and pretty cool. A lot of things.
Because he does other
things.
Sports.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to hear about that. So at a high level
be a good
too.
Thing.
All right, man. So this was a fun one.
Yes.
And you know what? Keep those messages coming. Write them on the comments. You know what? Hey. We're fine to talk to you guys.
If you love this episode, and frankly, even if you didn't, like, comment, share, let everybody know.
Yeah, let's have fun. Debate with us on the airs, like, let's go with it. So, all right.
This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you next time, guys.